Right, so I'm here with John. Hi, John. Now, this is a L4GSoundbite, L4GSoundbite, which is about your business. Just before we get into that, can you just tell us where we are, where you are, where you're based, and what you do?
Right, I'm based in Kettering in Northamptonshire.
Right.
And my name's John Kellett, obviously, because you just introduced me. And my practice is called KR.eativ Architects,
Right.
which is a bad pun.
I get it. So, now I was fascinated because when we first started, well, when I first met you, actually, you were quite adamant that not everybody who claims to be an architect is an architect, and actually, there's a real problem out there in that there are people who are masquerading as proper architects but aren't. So for people that might be watching this, what constitutes an architect, and who are these masqueraders? Because we need to know, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's an earlier place to start, in that this country is one of the few in the Western civilized world that doesn't require qualified people to design buildings.
Right.
Which is mad.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It explains why our construction industry is so expensive and why our buildings are so bad. In order to be an architect, it's a minimum of 7 years university supervised training.
Right.
Which means a degree, a postgraduate degree, usually an MA, and sometimes a PhD as well, or a postgraduate diploma. And then you can register as an architect with the Architects Registration Board.
Right.
And only those who have registered with the Architects Registration Board are allowed by law to call themselves architects.
So who are the... Give us some idea of how you would find someone that's masquerading or giving the impression that they're an architect, but who aren't actually an architect.
Right, those masquerading as architects,
yeah,
by offering what they call architectural services, are starting at the bottom are the completely unqualified, who you can tell because they've called themselves architectural designer.
Right.
Or architectural consultant. They've usually used the word architectural.
Right.
Because that isn't protected in law, so they use it.
Okay. Whereas the word architect is, of course.
The word architect is.
Okay.
The only other professions allowed to use the word architect are landscape architects, golf course architects, naval architects, and... no, that's it.
Right.
Those calling themselves systems architects are using the title illegally.
Whoops.
Whoops. And yeah, or business architects. Wasted. They're just. There's also another. The next level up is those who have got some training as architectural staff, such as an HND. Or an HNC in construction detailing, or a degree in architectural technology, which allows them to be a chartered architectural technologist, because that's only at least 4 years study, they're quite good at what they do,
yeah,
which is architectural technology. Their training isn't in architecture. So if they've got CAT after their name, or CAT after the company's name, they're not architects.
Right.
They are allowed to offer architectural services,
yeah,
but then your pet cat is allowed to offer architectural services. In fact, most of them are quite creative. And then there's chartered surveyors who are qualified to survey, and a lot of them are trained in the design of buildings, but in a repair and maintenance line generally.
Yeah.
They tend to be better at their job than the technologists. Cut that bit out.
So coming back to architecture and what you do, I mean, most people, and I'm included in this, the vision is someone sat behind one of these mega board things, just like with rulers and stuff and drawing lines and doing stuff like that. That's kind of, but you know, I know because we had a quick chat beforehand that there's just so much more to it. And you said quite an interesting thing that what architects do is actually create space which the building is around. It's like,
the building is the enclosure of the space that we live in, and the space between buildings is also architecture. It's the space that's important in a way. It's almost more important than what the building looks like.
And I mean, in our busy world of the modern 21st century, there isn't really a lot of thought that goes into designing buildings, is there?
It's all governed by accountants, and as a rule. You know, but there are some good ones about. Northamptonshire is a bit light, but there are some good ones about.
You're talking about like buildings like chapels and churches and big spaces which give you a sense of awe when you go into those buildings. And we were talking about the Fibonacci sequence. I'm not sure that we need to go into what that is on this video, but there is a proportion of building which is represented in nature, which basically is, if you get it right, can turn a building into something pretty amazing. And not a lot of people know this. I mean, it's like I think you're one of these people that sits there with this huge understanding of what you do, and then you see everyone out there who doesn't have a clue.
Yeah,
must be very frustrating.
Yeah, it can be. But no, I mean, the whole of nature around us is based on that proportioning system, which is based on the Fibonacci sequence, a ratio which gets starts off very loosely at 1 to 1, and then 1 to 2, 2/3, 3/5.
Yeah.
And it gets 5/8, and gets closer and closer and closer to the ideal. It never reaches there. It just
infinitely gets closer, yeah.
Which is 1 to 1.618.
And what's the significance of that? What does that mean in reality? I mean, when you say proportionment, what is it? What does that?
I think it's related to the way our eyes are set up and the way molecules are designed to work, because that's all in the same sort of ratios.
Yeah.
And you've got the various atoms and molecules and where they go together. It's 1s and 2s and 3s and 5ths and whatever, and harmonics, which brings music into it as well. So you've got a whole. It's what the universe is built around.
Right.
It's a fairly basic harmonic relationship and ratios between things.
That's pretty fascinating. I mean, so what in your what do you do during the day? I mean, what's one of your? I mean, what do you work on? I mean, are you improving buildings? Are you designing new buildings, or are you looking after old buildings and making them more applicable to the 21st century? What do you?
Yeah, I mean, a bit of each. The first thing is I don't work on a dirty great drawing board.
Okay, put that one to bed straight away.
I put that in the garage 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Because an architect thinks in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
And in the past has had to communicate with those buildings with drawings.
Yeah.
So we're having to convert what's up here into a drawing so that somebody can read the drawing to reinterpret in their head to build it.
Yeah.
But with modern computers, building information modelling, or shortened to BIM as an acronym, means we can design the buildings in 3 dimensions in our heads, design the building in the computer in cyberspace, and then give that model of the building, which has got all the information about how to build it, how wide the doors are, where the doors are from, to how to build something, to where the fire doors are, to what the ironmongery is on that door, what the name of the room is, what the area of it is, what the skirting boards are made of, what colour the walls are. All that information is contained in the model.
Yeah.
And under the government level 2 BIM, which all government projects after April this year have to be done using means we can then give that model to the contractor to build it.
Yeah.
And they can quiz that model to find out what they need to know to build it, and that model can get passed on to the owner of the building as part of their facilities management regime, so that the light bulb knows it's going to need changing in 30 years' time.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the windows are going to need to be painted in 5. All that management information is also in the model.
Yeah.
It's good fun. But in terms of what I do, it's basically adding value to property.
Yeah.
If it's a piece of land, by adding a building, you increase its value. If you've got a derelict building, by bringing that building back into use, not only are you saving it from falling into ruin, but you're also making it useful.
Yeah, yeah.
No old buildings would still be around if they hadn't been reused throughout the decades.
So what's your favourite kind of work? What do you like working on best?
Well, after a career of working on everything from customs to hospitals to supermarkets to fast food restaurants,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to specialise in is listed buildings and bespoke homes and the smaller end of commercial development.
Right.
Of just adding value to property.
I suppose they test your innovative creativity in that you're drawing on a whole well of experience and implementing that.
Architects tend to be quite lateral thinkers.
Right.
The best example is perhaps everybody wants a rear extension, and we want an extension. Okay. And my job is to get behind that. Well, what do they actually need?
Yeah, yeah.
Because if they just extend their house out the back, they're going to end up with rooms in the middle of the house without any windows that are dark. So you have to get round what the client says they want to understand what they need.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And that is quite an interesting aspect of what we do. It's just trying to get behind what we're doing. I mean, I've had factory owners who want an office extension, can't fit in, and I think, well, nice work. But actually, when I go and meet the client and talk it through with them, I talk myself out of a project because they didn't actually need a new building. All they needed to was move some tables around.
Right.
And it's that adding value.
Yeah.
If they can get 30 people into a room that they had 20 in, they can make more money.
Yeah.
Because they didn't need to build the extension.
Absolutely.
And for a fast food chain, by dropping the windowsill by 75 millimetres, 1/4 brickwork, meant the children sitting inside the restaurant could see out. And that building, when it opened, they made, was 10, 15 years ago, they made 30,000 over the first weekend.
Unbelievable.
I didn't see any of it.
Job well done, but it's been fascinating talking to you. I think architecture is one of those things, I don't really know much about it, and I think I'm not uncommon. There's a lot of people out there that just really don't know what it's about, and it's really nice to speak to someone who's an architect.
No, it's about passion.
So thank you very much for your time.
Else.
Thank you very much for speaking to me. Cheers.